Hello humans, I'm Dr. Searchlight and I'm here to diagnose the problems holding back one of the least used monsters in the multiverse of Dungeons and Dragons. Let's see what the 2014 Monster Manual says on the Bullywug. Life as a bullywug is nasty, brutish, and wet. These frog-headed amphibious humanoids must stay constantly moist, dwelling in rainy forests, marshes, and damp caves. Always hungry and thoroughly evil, bullywugs overwhelm opponents with superior numbers when they can, but they flee from serious threats to search for easier prey. Bullywugs have green, gray, or mottled yellow skin that shifts through shades of gray, green, and brown, allowing them to blend in with their surroundings. They wear crude armor and wield simple weapons, and can deliver a powerful bite to foes that press too close. Bullywugs consider themselves the right and proper rulers of the swamps. They follow an etiquette of sorts when dealing with outsiders and each other, subject to the whims and fancies of their leader, a self-styled Lord of the Muck. Bullywugs introduce themselves with grand-sounding titles, make great shows of bowing and debasing themselves before their superiors, and endlessly vie to win their superiors' favor. A bullywug has two ways to advance among its kind. It can either murder its rivals, though it must take pains to keep its criminal deed secret, or it can find a treasure or magic item and present it as tribute or a token of obeisance to its liege. A bullywug that murders its rivals without cunning is likely to be executed, so it's more common for bullywugs to stage raids against caravans and settlements, with the goal of securing precious baubles to impress their lords and win their good graces. Invariably, such fine goods are reduced to filthy tatters through abuse and neglect. Once a gift loses its sheen, a bullywug lord invariably demands that its subjects bring it more treasure as tribute. Bullywugs love nothing more than lording over those who trespass on their territories. Their warriors attempt to capture intruders rather than simply slaying them. Captives are dragged before the king or queen, a bullywug of unusually large size, and forced to beg for mercy. Bribes, treasure, and flattery can trick the bullywug ruler into letting its captives go, but not before it tries to impress its guests with the majesty of its treasure and its realm. Struck with a deep inferiority complex, bullywug lords fancy themselves as kings and queens, but desperately crave the fear and respect of outsiders. Bullywugs speak a language that allows them to communicate over large areas by croaking like frogs. News of intruders or other events in the swamp spread within minutes across this crude communication system. Simple concepts in the language are understandable to frogs and toads. Bullywugs use this capability to form strong bonds with giant frogs, which they train as guardians and hunters. Larger specimens are sometimes used as mounts as well. The frog's ability to swallow creatures whole provides a bullywug hunting band an easy means of carrying prey back to their villages. Now that you know what is the creature I'm talking about, I'm going to run down the symptoms of the bullywug's particular disorder that prevents dungeon masters from wanting to use them. As stated in the Monster Manual description, the coloration of the bullywugs varies from green to brown. Not very flattering colors for humans to look at, compounded with frogs having an appearance that many humans find difficult to take seriously to begin with. Bullywug's status as a so-called monster race in the context of Dungeons and Dragons means they can't have much in the way of advanced civilization, by medieval standards anyway. And so the bullywugs have crude weapons and not much in the way of stylized weapons and armor. The bullywugs are quite literally just 6-foot bipedal frogs. Yes, they can communicate with ordinary frogs, but the yuan-ti can also do that with snakes, and they are a far more interesting group of creatures. They don't have psychic abilities that allow them to collectively conjure gods into existence, they aren't cursed to imitate the sounds of other creatures to communicate, and they don't have special maze-solving abilities. Bullywugs are just frogs, they can breathe underwater just like frogs, as can many other races. There is none. In a world where gods send avatars to walk the planet, the bullywugs do not have one they worship. This lack of faith in this world of Dungeons and Dragons would normally lead to someone being condemned to the Wall of Souls, but this isn't addressed when it comes to the Bullywugs. The Bullywug society is pretty much just the same as medieval feudalism, considering this is a world where humans already live in a civilization similar to medieval Europe. It really makes the Bullywugs fade into the background. The Bullywugs have lords they bribe, lords hoard treasure from the needy, and the lords send assassins and soldiers to kill each other to gain rank in society. There is nothing separating the Bullywugs from typical primitive human behaviors, despite being amphibians. The Bullywugs suffer from what I call hidden hominid, where they are literally just imitations of a certain culture of people but are animals. Why would a dungeon master want to use Bullywugs when they could just use humans and it would look less silly? Now, I'm not just here to bash the Bullywug, so I am going to prescribe an antidote to this monster's disorder. Long ago, during the era now known as the Days of Thunder, existed a kingdom of shape-shifting amphibians known as the Botruki Empire. Of course, through many wars with the other dominating and rising powers of the time, the empire eventually fell into ruin. The descendants of the Botruki went off in many different directions. The Grungs became a group of poison-secreting slavers, the Doppelgangers became shape-shifting hedonists, and the Bullywugs became distressed at the loss of their shape-shifting abilities. While some Bullywugs turned to becoming a pale imitation of the humans that had risen to dominance, others turned to a far darker path. Mauler worship. Mauler promised the Bullywugs the ability to shapeshift like their ancestors again, in exchange for their loyalty, of course. And so the Bullywugs are now a nomadic tribe of shape-shifting flesh-eating predators in service to the god of evil lycanthropes. I have already built the stat block for my revised Bullywug, and you can get it for only $2. You can find it through the Ko-fi link in the description. What is Ko-fi, you may ask? Well, it's like Patreon, except you don't have to subscribe. Through a one-time donation you can see the Malarite Bullywug stat block and use it in your games. Until next time, I'm Dr. Searchlight, vanishing into the dark.